Hello everyone, it is Pal Ponder on Weather coming at you with another video. In this update, I'm going to go over my overall snowfall outlook between now and the end of November and kind of give you an idea of the why before the what and explain some of the reasoning behind it. So before I do get started, if you do like weather related content, please subscribe to my channel as I will upload about 5 videos a week to keep you updated. All right, so let's get started. So I figured we'd start off with the overall snowfall map of kind of where we've been and what we've received so far. And yesterday, 31% of the country was covered in snow. That's pretty incredible for the middle of November, and that's on target. It's the most since actually this time frame of 2012. All right. So here's the overall precipitation outlook between January 1st all the way through year to date, and has much 2/3 of the country receiving above normal precipitation. We had the little drought in the southeast, but that's actually kind of coming back now with some of that additional moisture that's coming in into the fall and especially the winter months. So, but this is the overall precipitation outlook of what has actually fallen so far this year. And here's the temperatures. And this is pretty impressive for November. And this is kind of where we've been and what's happening over the last 2 weeks. You can see we're 4.65 degrees below normal. We're on pace for the coldest November since 1995. So that's pretty impressive. So much of the country has been well below normal. And there's parts of the central part of the country, 10, 15, as much as almost 20 degrees below normal in Minnesota. So this cold outbreak early on in the season has been very impressive to say the least. But here's the overall GEF outlook on the NAO and the AOO, showing that the teleconnections are going to remain somewhat negative. It won't be getting these, true Arctic blasts that we just received. That was pretty an anomaly, but we're still going to be in a lot of the areas below normal between now and the end of November. So that's what the teleconnections are actually saying. So let's start off with this first system. Here's a 500 millibar pattern. Everything happens in the upper levels. So here's the latest Euro guidance on the 19th, showing this first initial possibly nor'eastern coming up in the New England states, dropping some rain and definitely a heavier wind event and some wet snow on the back side of it. And here's the overall. I was kind of going to take you to this timeline. I found this yesterday. This is an overall long range model that I look at, and this was a pretty impressive run. So it's showing that that first system coming in, kind of a bomb cycle coming into the northeast overall next week with that first possibly nor'eastern coming in, and we have that blocking, that Alaskan ridge blocking, and this is blocking. So you have this potential setup that I think is going to play out predominantly over the winter months. And we could take it out another frame. This actually kind of reloads this time next week, a week later on the 26th, Thanksgiving week, and again has a potentially another system coming in for the northeastern parts of the United States. And again, if we take it out another frame to the second, that system here, it reloads again potentially for the 2nd and 3rd of December. and believe it or not, this system's again coming down the block line because we have this blocking in place, and potentially another system on the 9th coming in that weekend. So this is obviously a longer range model that I'm looking at, but that's pretty impressive. This blocking setting up, and this continuous flow, relentless flow every single week, bringing systems into the United States, so especially this early on. So, and even the latest GFS guidance of the 500 millibar pattern. I've been looking at the GFS a lot lately because that's been the most accurate. The Euro has been subpar. So, but even on the GFS, it has that system coming in on that the 24th time frame of hitting the northeastern parts of the United States, and you can see the European is not nearly as bullish. And as we get closer in to this event, you'll probably see the European turn a little bit more bullish every single day. And that's kind of been the trend here lately. It can't see the cold long term. I don't know what's going on with that model. But models are only a guide. So we kind of use all the factors, the teleconnections, the upper level guidance, especially what's happening in the upper levels to predict snow down in the surface. So here's the overall precipitation outlook for, again, the GFS model between now and the end of the month. And it kind of shows that abundance amount of moisture. We talked about the elevated SOI index yesterday, below -8, implies the Pacific jets getting activated, pushing in more moisture into the south and southeast. And you can see that's showing that in some of the model guidance between now and the end of the month, and bringing that potentially up to the coast. And as these systems come in, it'll wrap into that colder air and bring snow to the northern parts of the United States. And here, this is kind of a longer ways out. It's 2 weeks from now. I'm potentially looking at what they call a polar vortex, a disruption or a split, where it buckles, and you see the blocking pattern. So if this plays out, we're going to continue that cold spell through December. So it's kind of picking up on that and that longer range guidance I showed you. So this has a lot to do with this polar vortex potentially splitting over Thanksgiving. So I'll be definitely looking out for that and see if that actually transpires. So far, the sunspots has a lot to do with this pattern. Last year, in 2018, we had that outbreak in November that left much of the country below normal early on. And this was, a lot of the outbreak that we had this year was a lot colder than last year, and even 2014. In a lot of cases, it broke records all the way back to the cold year of 1911, and that was really impressive. And we're actually on pace as far as like sunspots to even surpass that. We're probably going to be like potentially number 3 of the lowest sunspots. I mean, right now we're definitely on pace to beat 2009, which was the 25th coldest and snowiest winter in the United States. And 1911 was the second coldest November through March on record ever for the United States. So here's the temperature anomaly for that year, which was lights out, 100% below normal for the entire United States. The only year in the last 120, I mean, some states have been going back longer than that, was 1898, 1899 was the coldest year ever all time. So for some of these records to go down and beat the 1911 time frame, not just couple, hundreds of records got broken from 1911 in this outbreak, was very impressive. And it kind of shows you a testament on where this potential winter setup could go this year if cycles repeat themselves, which oftentimes they do. So here is what you've been waiting on, is the overall kind of like my summary of the overall snowfall outlook and how I think it's going to play out between now and the end of November, which is the second half of November. So I kind of put together this guidance of kind of a heavier snow swath. And these are a lot of the areas that actually have already seen snow this year. So it should have a heavier snowfall over the next 2 weeks in parts of Minnesota, Wisconsin, Michigan, a lot of heavy lake effect snow again with these systems coming in. I showed you all these congruent systems coming in over the next 2 or 3 weeks. A lot of the areas in Buffalo, Cleveland, New York, Syracuse, Maine, the upper levels of New York, getting heavier snowfall, kind of more of a moderate snowfall. I know you haven't seen anything in New York City, which I do think you are going to see some between now and the end of the month, and especially into Boston. And of course, it will fade as we get closer into the coastline, and this will pick up later on in the season, but it's only November. But a lot of these areas will see a less snow, but not as heavy, in Washington, Oregon, Nevada, Montana, a lot of the Dakota states, Colorado, Nebraska, Kansas, Iowa, Illinois, Indiana, Ohio. I do see you're going to get a little bit more of a moderate. I don't know exact totals because this is over a 2 week outlook, but I do think you're going to get at least more than an inch in these areas, and kind of the lighter shaded areas. I think you're going to at least get potentially a dusting or a winter mix as these systems come across. I do think it's going to bring some snowfall, or at least a dusting or some sort of transferring of a mineral mix in parts of the Panhandle, all the way down to Lubbock, and some of Oklahoma, and to Arkansas, and Tennessee, even into Kentucky and West Virginia and Virginia. Is potentially going to see at least some flakes flying between now and the end of November. So, and it's, of course, especially some along the east coast. So this area should start filling in, and of course I'll make another snowfall map for December, but I want to kind of give you an idea of where I'm thinking this rest of November is going to go for snowfall, and some of my reasoning behind it. So I appreciate you guys watching. Obviously, if you found value in this video, please subscribe to my channel, and definitely share with your friends and family on social media that love weather-related content, as this fuels my passion to continue to bring the weather, which I love to do. So I appreciate you guys watching, and tune into the next video where I protect you before and after the storm.